So the first thing is it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty, let's see, consistent with successful songwriters and musicians. The fact that they've had to focus a good chunk of their life at their craft without a lot of return. So he was talking about, he's from Kansas, Clearwater, Kansas, I think. When he moved to Nashville, he got what's called a publishing deal pretty quickly. And a publishing deal is basically when a company hires you to write songs in which they pitch to major artists. And what they do is they give you what they call an advance. They'll say they'll give you $16,000 a year to write songs 5 days a week. And they'll pay that money up front. But if you ever get a hit, you have to pay it back with some of the money that you make. So it's not very much money, especially in today's world. But when he was in Nashville, and at that point in his life, he'd never made $16,000 a year. And there's a pretty funny clip that I posted on Instagram and YouTube where he says, when they told him they were going to pay him $16,000, he was like, "Dude, what am I going to do with $16,000 a year? That's more money than I've ever had." So I thought that was pretty interesting. But the point is that level of dedication to your craft, like being willing to not make a lot or maybe even be in the red on what you really want to go after and do and try to be the best at, is kind of part of the process. I'm personally okay with being pretty good at multiple things. I don't need to be the best at anything because I enjoy doing multiple things. But if you want to be the best at something, and something especially as competitive as music and songwriting, you kind of got to dive in head first, like Logan did. And he found that early success, which really helped him. The next thing I learned from talking to him was how important authenticity is when, in every songwriter's journey, especially if you're trying to make money, you're trying to write songs for these big artists. If Blake Shelton's recording an album or George Strait or whoever, you're trying to write for others, and that's good. But the bad thing is sometimes you lose track of who you really are and what your song should sound like and what they're about. You kind of fall into the machine of the whole thing. And what he found out is he ended up writing a bunch of songs just about Kansas and his life in Kansas. And, after he left Nashville, he realized that that's kind of what he's really good at. And even though he had cuts with like Billy Currington, for example, and other people, he, the songs that connected the best with a lot of his audience ended up being songs that were straight from the heart and about his life, even though he comes from a super tiny town and not very populated place. So that level of, and I've found the same thing in my music, along the way. So he learned that same lesson. No matter what your art form, authenticity wins. The other cool thing about Logan that I think this is great about all entrepreneurs that are successful, whatever the field is he's designed his life. He's created the life that he dreamt of, and that's pretty cool from scratch. Like that's mostly everybody fantasizes about that. Not everybody is willing to dive in headfirst and make $16,000 a year and, wake up 15 years later and actually be able to have that life. So it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication, but I think it's inspiring to see people like him who've literally created a life to where he can live in his little hometown with his wife, who's also an amazing singer, songwriter, and have this freaking awesome life, man. I mean, we all only live once. Why not? Speaking of music, so first of all, go listen to Logan Mize, the interview. It's on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. It's also on YouTube. You can watch the full interview. I've also posted several clips.